like steps.
Okay, I have 6:30 on the dot.
Oh, salon.
Pull some glasses out so I can see a little better.
Thank you.
So we'll call the work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville to order for August the 12th, 2019. We'll go over the regular business meeting first. So we've got Reverend Allison Purley with Westminster to give the invocation, and Chuck is gonna do the pledge. All right,
Hey, Chuck.
No kneeling.
I did the pledge this morning, if you need help.
Then we have the Purple Heart proclamation, and then a presentation of the flag. Minutes to approve. Public hearing, we've got first reading on the American Pet Resort. I've got a few questions, I know Todd does as well, if we could go over that real quick. Todd, you wanna start?
Oh, now?
Yep.
I got it. Well, the big issue is, this is a corner that we looked at zoning. Okay, no, I want the fold out that has the pretty pictures.
This is the bigger.
No, I want the fold out with the pretty pictures that Bill had. This is going to be this one here.
That's by our house.
Basically the gateway on our southeast side, and the development as they have it laid out in the plans according to our website is showing its back end to both of our major thoroughfares. So on Henry Clower and on whatever that road is,
Scenic Highway,
124.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
It's-
thing that caught my eye right
We're
after
gonna
that,
see
too.
fences and walls, and this is what the front design of their building actually looks like, and this will be facing an interior road. I don't know about y'all, but I want our businesses to put their best face forward. And I want them to be seen by all those thousands of people that are driving by. And if all we're seeing is a brick wall with a fence on top, it looks more like we have a pet prison than a beautiful puppy daycare facility. And I know they have wonderful other designs, but it's still the back end of a, gosh, thanks Jason, a wall. It also requires that they put their parking in an impervious setback, which is undesirable, which we agreed to do 11 years ago when this site was being developed as a business park, which surprisingly, from 124 and Henry Clower was going to show its best side forward on both those facades, and then have parking surrounding it. Now, a doggy daycare doesn't necessarily fall under the same intensive use as a business park, and the parking requirements are different. But if you were looking at the plan view, which you can all look at in your own time, if it were flipped 180 degrees, where it was putting its face actually out on one of the main streets, that would actually put the dog runs, the doggy daycare section of it, back on the impervious surface, which makes more sense that you would have your pervious ground where it actually is required by law anyway. So I know there may be some issues as far as driveway access and curb cuts because of DOT and this being a state road and county road. But I just have heartburn about having the back end of a building fronting two of our main roads. And it's, to me, that would be a slap in the face to everybody who lives on the south side of the city, that we're not conscientious enough to make sure that we, again, put our best face forward, both for our businesses and ourselves. So that's my big issue. And I think we're early enough still in the process that something could possibly be worked out. I'm also, it uses a term called CMUs, which are, or CU, anyway, concrete block construction. And I'm not a big fan of using concrete block construction pretty much anywhere, unless you're building a prison on
Or
taxpayer
school.
dollars, or school. So I'm not terribly, not terribly excited, and I understand they're probably gonna use a coating over the concrete block, and so it'll probably be prettified, but I just think that we can do better. We already have a car wash at the gateway to our
Yeah.
upcoming city center, or I guess the Grove, and I would like us to do better and have a higher standard going forward for our citizens on the south side. I'm done pontificating.
Can I address? those
Absolutely.
concerns?
Oh, it's another one.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of helps illustrate what Todd is talking about, how
You
the
probably
the
move it down
front
that way.
of the development is facing here,
My house.
and that
Belly
was,
on up.
No,
that
wait,
was.
let me get
Yeah,
oriented.
see,
Where's
here's the
124?
corner, here's the corner, here's the
Okay,
marathon.
I gotcha.
Here's the corner, so
Mm-hmm.
as you can see, the depth of the building, when they originally wanted to turn it this way, but to make sure that they stayed out of having to need any stream buffer variances, which we don't give very often, we recommend that they keep it out of the 50 foot disturbed, just like the state, and that they pave in here. So part of fitting this profile this way didn't work on that property. There's no way to go further back with the landscape strips. Now, if you wanted to grant them 25 feet back into that stream buffer, which is what we normally caution against just because we try to retain those, that's when they turned it sideways. So that's
Could
why.
it be flipped 180 degrees?
This way?
Yeah.
I,
So the entrance would be off of
A cloud.
Cloud.
Alpha Clower.
That's kind of an awkward.
there's I don't know. I think they looked at that too, but then the access is streaming right by the intersection. There's usually intersection
an
rules there.
awkward-
They wanted to face it forward because it gives them, they'd like nothing more than to have that grandiose view. That's what's gonna bring people in, and you still have a view corridor down this way. So we're like, well, if that doesn't work on this site, which they tried it all 4 different ways, then we said we're gonna need something better than just a dog run out there. And that's when we started talking about the addition of this wall on the outside, the decorative wall, which is against another vinyl coated fence to break it up. This all gonna be landscaped, and that's kind of the 3D view of the 2 sides. And then the planning commission said bring the brick all the way up on this. They had no problem with that. And just so everybody knows, these guys, from dealing with them, aren't worried about cash. They want the appearance to look as nice as we do. They don't have any problems with meeting the architectural codes and using all the brick. And the CMU that you see, this is kind of a cut down view, is behind the decorative stuff. They keep this CMU and they paint it for hygiene protection, so they can spray it off, and they can't do that with brick because they can't seal it. So this is actually behind the gate, and it was designed to pick up the brick at the very tip of the fence, so that you won't even see the CMU. It'll be shielded. There'll be plantings all in here and all up there. So this is what you'll see. There's still building articulation, and on the side, this is what you'll see, with plantings, all up and down those 2 landscape strips. And the civil engineer actually asked to bury the stormwater pipe over here and a sewer line so they can grade this. It was a 2-to-1 or the minimum to actually slope it and maintain it and add more of a flat space to it to give it more of like a front yard appearance. So, I mean, I'm sure they're open to other designs. We went through that process before they even came.
So they're right on that drawing, it's showing that their fence is right at just about at the right of way. So,
Here's the right of way, actually.
yeah, okay, on Clower, but on
And here's the
124.
right of way. Now it's about 20 feet.
Well, I will say tonight that I would find it very hard to ever vote in favor of a facility that, as beautiful as you dress it up, is still showing its ass to two of our main thoroughfares. And their design is beautiful. I like the idea, I like the product. The layout is questionable, and whatever it takes to make it more acceptable, I'm in favor of. And if they were to relay it out where some of their pervious runs were back in the pervious setback, then that.
The way this is configured is the prototype. This is how they do it. So this is one big building. They come in with
Then
the
they
two.
need to find a lot that it'll fit on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. Coming up from the south,
Yeah.
that's like, that's a
a
whole
major
big
gateway.
phase of the town center development, and we're gonna wind up with the dialysis center where we're seeing the back of a building right up against the road, so.
So
we
we're
gotta
already
really think
halfway to
about that one.
4, and I would prefer that,
What do you want to see?
I want to see their
What do you want to see to
their
make it look more like a
entrance
front door?
facade front on one of our major roads, to give them the most exposure possible, and also to make it as attractive as possible to our citizens.
They're gonna have to reconfigure it.
Right.
I went to the planning commission
Yes.
meeting when they, were you at that, when they did their presentation? And they showed, pictures, elevations of many of their other facilities. And personally, I thought they were attractive.
They are.
I agree that it would look better if that nice front facade was, oriented towards 124.
So are you okay with pushing you want them to, are you okay with them getting in the buffer at that point?
The question then becomes, does the municipality of Snellville have the right to encroach on a unencroachable buffer?
No, we have.
It's not a stream buffer.
It is a stream buffer, but it's our buffer up into 25 feet. The
Ours
state's-
ours is wider than the state. You're encroaching into your own setback area.
Okay.
You'd be
Like-
giving them an extra 25 feet.
As long as the area that's encroaching in there is a green space, which the the day part, the runs are, the way it seems to be segregated, that is it
But
would.
it's not, the runs are gonna be, I think, in
And
concrete, they're not gonna be
No,
like
they're
grass.
like a turf
They're-
grass.
they're
Something they
yeah.
spray down.
Yeah.
And
That-
sanitize.
I would much rather have that, even if it encroaches into the buffer, than to have a driveway back
Be
there.
attractive.
And I
That,
believe that
Well,
turf
the
in the
driveway's
runs
like
are
I know, no,
pervious,
it's
correct?
What's
pervious.
that?
That-
Pervious, yeah.
That turf type stuff they use in the dog runs
Yeah, it's
is
got like a
pervious.
filtration system.
Yeah, it has a filtration system in it.
Yeah, so I
So
mean,
flip it or no go?
if we can turn it 90 degrees, that'd be awesome. If we can turn it 180 degrees, that'd be slightly less awesome, but it would be okay.
One or the other.
Yeah, but if we have to encroach into our self-imposed buffer, and it is, again, it is a, it isn't a building as such. It is something that will allow the water to filter through and drain, and it's not parking cars on it, it's pets and animals. It'll have to be built up probably to a higher level, so you'll have more filtration through the soil than you would if you just built it on grade as it stands now. So I think our streams would probably be
They're already 75.
well filtered and protected from whatever waste would come off the dog park.
All right.
Anybody agree or disagree?
I agree.
I agree.
Roger?
Yeah, they just they couldn't flip it because it was our ordinance or our
Right.
regulations, so they had no idea this was gonna happen.
Right, I don't wanna
So
punish
it's,
them for our ordinance.
Right.
Yeah, and as long as if they can get a variance, then they can do what they originally wanted to
I
do.
have to, I was impressed when I saw it at the planning commission. And I think we should give
I don't
them
have a
a
problem
chance
with
to
it.
work with us.
And with the concept, especially with town center coming on,
Yeah,
I mean, if you've got people in rental units or, apartments or condos, I mean, a lot of times they don't wanna leave their animals there all day long. I mean, I think it's a great thing for the town center to come along, and it looks like a really nice
Yeah.
facility, but it's just not fitting on that lot the way they've got it.
Well, I don't wanna do them a disservice. I mean, when it comes down to it, it does all
Well,
of us.
I get it,
a
but they're
disservice.
making a business decision,
Right.
but I'm making a decision for everybody that lives here that's gotta drive by it every day.
Right. And thank you, Jason, for pointing out that they need that wall coated so it can be hosed down for sanitary reasons. I didn't even think about that.
These people don't have any trouble spending money. They've got- these
Oh, don't tell us that.
Then they can spend it, make it look
Yes, we
right.
would like.
Then they can make it look right. Okay, so you got a little bit of time to get that, hopefully something worked out on that one. New business, item A, unfortunately, we won't be signing the development agreement tonight. Our lawyers all met and made some adjustments to the language in the agreement, clarifications and just more clearly laid out issues that we've been talking about, but now it's in writing. So their attorney wasn't gonna be able to look at it, get it till Friday, so it just wasn't enough time for them to be able to come in tonight and sign it. So we'll just need to postpone that till the 26th. Should be good to go.
Butch, whenever you get that copy that we're gonna be voting on, I want it as soon as possible, because I haven't read it because I knew it was gonna keep changing until they decide.
We have not received
So-
their comments yet, and we'll have to take those, and, we had even talked about maybe another short work session. We'll see what they,
Yeah, because I know I'm
what they
gonna
say,
have
but
questions.
we'll get
so
that out
it's-
to everybody,
Okay.
yeah.
Then we have the resolution for financing of the vehicles and equipment.
It is about $288,000 worth of police cars and equipment. It's our annual lease, and this was a very good rate that the Sun Trust came into with. I believe it was,
214.
less than,
2.279.
that's 2.279. They were very
On the
aggressive.
Falcons.
And Melissa does a good job marketing that, getting it out to different people. And so I'm gonna be recommending that we definitely enter into that.
We really need more police cars.
He didn't even bat an
He
eyebrow right
didn't,
there.
he didn't, he's ignoring me.
Did I hear Tom Wentz?
He's on his phone, he doesn't even know we're talking about. And then we have, Jamie Terr will be appointing as a permanent associate judge. She's like the third one now, so she's just a fill-in here and there, but she's done a great job so far.
Make her feel special.
So
Permanently special.
the chief judge has requested that we go ahead and appoint her for that. And then we've got the mobile stage agreement for the Baptist church.
I have a question about that.
Yes, ma'am.
In the agreement, it states that the term of the lease is for 1 day, which is September 1st, begins September 1st and September 1st. And it states that they are, the insurance that they have to have shall cover the full repair and replacement cost of any damage, personal injury claim during the term of the lease. However, we're delivering the stage on Thursday, August 29th, and picking it up Tuesday, September 3rd. So that seems that there's a few days in there that there's no coverage in case of damage to the stage or personal injury.
Good catch.
Am I right? I mean, what if somebody backs a big truck into it and damages it?
We
While
could
it's-
ask, we could
while
ask
it's on
to,
site
we could
there.
ask to extend that. And
Yeah.
we'll be, named insured for the entire time that it's on their property.
Okay.
We lost out again.
Okay, so that's all I have for the
So
regular meeting.
will
Do
we
we
be
need to
approving that tonight?
amend that in-
Amending the,
With the motion or no?
amending the,
Just like you
Lease
said,
agreement?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you need
the
to
word.
have insurance coverage for the
Yeah.
entire time it's in their possession.
And
okay,
then we'll just need to change the contract.
While it's on their site,
Futures. While
because
it's on the site.
transportation, it should be insured by us.
right, okay.
And then we can update the contract for future. Okay. Now we're back to the work session agenda. Any correspondence?
No, we had an interesting situation this morning. I think you got an email regarding stormwater billing that went out on tax bills. And because of a glitch, when the information went in, something happened. And so a number, several thousand tax bills were, had the incorrect stormwater information on there. We only heard from really a handful of folks. I don't know if y'all heard from anybody. But we explained the situation. Melissa, Jason, Gay, everybody jumped right on it. And the county should have those rebills out shortly, I guess.
How would people know that there's an error on their bill?
Oh, their bills have gone from $58 to $5,000.
Oh, I guess that's a good clue
I
then.
might pick up on
That's
that.
that one.
The problem
When
is,
were the bills mailed?
No, we got ours Saturday, maybe?
I haven't gotten it.
I think over the last, probably over the last few days, I don't think they probably batch them all out at
Chris, I
once.
didn't check.
They had
But the problem is, from our end, those people who got the had the $58 bill and got a $5,000 bill, there are a lot of folks who had a $5,000 bill and they got charged $58.
Oh.
So, we aren't gonna hear from those people. But, we should have this corrected in the next couple days.
Please tell me Brett Harrell got one of the
$5,000.
$5,000 stormwater bills.
They messed up on their water billing too.
The county did?
Yeah, I got a notice that they had misread the meter or something.
Yeah, we got 2 letters saying that our base charge was too low.
Oh, no, this
And,
was the opposite. that- Yeah, they
okay.
billed me for water I haven't used.
Wow.
But you will.
Would be said at some point.
But no other correspondence, just wanted to make everybody aware of that.
We have a few litigation and one real estate matter that we wanted to report on in executive session.
Okay. The projects,
All good news when it comes to projects. A lot has gone on. I apologize for missing the last meeting. I survived Disney World with the grandkids. And,
Miserable weather.
as I said here on the first item, the town center, close to finalizing several docks. The final form that everything's gonna be in is gonna be much better for us and for the potential developer. USPS is moving. They are working on the design of the SunTrust building. And they also, in 2 weeks, they will have their public hearing for.
and their checklist required a conference with the mayor. So we did that
Yes, we did.
last week.
Awesome.
It was like 7 minutes on the phone, I think.
Didn't, we,
So they
You
could
just
check
said what
that
we already
box.
knew, so.
So we're good to go.
but the thing is, we have to keep them moving. So we'll continue to do that. We do need that executive session for just a little update. Also, good news when it comes to the planning and design work for the library and the other items. Had very good meetings with the library and the legal staff, county folks, as well as meeting with TSW to get everything back on track and moving again. And the county and the library is on board with our site work plans, so all good news there. We will have a small addendum to the IGA, to the design IGA, but that's something that should just be initialed by all parties, and we'll be moving on. City marketing, the quality of life publication still at the printer, Brian?
Yep, should be back this week.
The budget layout had to be pushed back. That's my fault. I'm sorry. We had a lot of other things going on, so I didn't have a chance to apply myself to the whole budget and give Brian the direction he needed. The UDO staff did a great job coming up with talking not only about content but talking about format with Caleb and TSW. He's responded back earlier today, and I think he needs a couple more days to review those 400 plus comments, and we'll kind of be on their timeline, but it sounds, Jason, like that he's getting back on track with pushing more. So that's something that we'll have to push him on.
Do we have any kind of timeline on when they might get back to
Well, when we
us?
dropped those on him like about 2.5 weeks ago, and the amount of the comments was really more than we expected because it was the first time we got the entire document together, so you could see the flow. And then Norcross just adopted one, so we had some examples, and what we dropped on him was a lot of stuff. So I talked to him this morning, and he said he's gonna look at it this week and then start to kind of reface it a little bit. I mean, we went all the way to the weeds and then all the way back up. So once he said this week, so.
Yeah, I think once he gets familiar with everything and gets a feel in his mind for how we can move, I think 60 to 90 days,
Yeah.
and we should be done.
Close, yeah, we need to bring it back, and there's
Go through.
10 or
go through your
15
council.
issues that could go either way as far as how you guys want to handle certain situations, and then after we beat the format to the right place, then it should just be that meeting and then the vetting process. But I mean, it's really, code's gonna be around for at least 15 years, so we wanted to make sure that it was usable by you guys, citizens, and professionals too, and
Yeah, I don't wanna
quite there.
keep extending it out
Yeah,
too long because things are gonna start popping around here.
We're covered with most of the major stuff, but I want it to be right too. when it
Yeah,
comes to-
yeah, definitely.
And it will be. And I don't foresee it being another 6 to 8 months.
One kind of tangential issue here also has to do with the town center overlay. I've asked Melissa to put on the work session next time. Several folks have mentioned just looking at where it extends to now, where we may want to put it in the future, and so start that discussion on the work session next time. Roundabout construction, ER Snell is working. Utilities have been located. They've laid out some of the engineering and done the staking. And really, that's going to be determined by weather. I mean, they've got 4 months, but hopefully the weather is cooperative. Also put a call into Gwinnett DOT regarding Springdale. Now that buses are back up and everything, we're trying to get an update from them on that.
That would be lovely.
So, yeah. 78 and 124, I think the county has their glitches in the signalization fixed. I know we had another little problem, I think, this weekend, Roy. But when the signals are working, I mean, I've heard positive things. So, and when you try to go through there at different times of the day, I think when everything's done, and when it comes to everything being done, the remaining asphalt work, they're targeting by the end of October. That means that Clower and Oak, the intersection there, will be completed, as well as everything will be at grade with the new asphalt on the intersection. And they should be finished with everything around Christmas except for landscaping. They want to wait until the spring to plant sod, and I'm fine with that. So it's going to kind of be stages. The end of October will really be the next main thing that we see. And that means when we talk about Oak and Clower, we're talking about 2 left turn lanes out here on Oak, and we're talking about 2 right turn lanes on Clower. So that should be great in moving traffic.
Did you ever find out about water
Which,
on the wall in front of Pavino's? So we can-
yes, yes.
Is there,
We'll have some access there. SDS negotiations, another thing that, if we stay on the fast track that the county wants, they want IGAs in place by Labor Day. I don't know that we'll make
There's-
that.
Yeah, there's a meeting coming up between the Gwinnett Municipal Staff Committee and the county staff on the 15th. So the city sent some questions to the county, and we haven't heard a word back, so it's sounding like we won't get any answers to those questions until that
In
meeting.
reviewing the documents on behalf of the city, the roadway maintenance agreement does not change. We maintain they continue to maintain the roads as they're doing now. And the language and the agreements that we saw did not really pertain to us. We don't have utilities. And so there's a lot of work that still has to be done in the police and dispatch area. So that's where a lot of those questions are coming from. 2017 SPLOST continues with excellent numbers. Any debt service needs in the future, the dollars we've collected will expedite those needs. And ordinance development, I think we've got a executive session to go over a couple of things. So that's definitely all good news.
Okay. Item B, we've got Summit Chase Landscape Plan.
We have a quote to give you an update, and let's see, let's pass these out, folks. And we need to add a couple more estimates to
Anybody else?
to this one, but this gives us, this gives you an idea of what we're looking at out there as far as the work. The total is a little over $15,000. We're talking about cleaning out, taking out down the existing trees, grinding the stumps, going down to the dirt, having the best planting soil available, and putting in 10 Zelkova 3-inch caliper street trees. I know you've talked about, I guess the Zelkovas came as a recommendation from Chelsea, did it not? I know you guys have talked about crepe myrtles. So this just gives you an idea of where we would be. I think Todd, in introducing me to the new HOA president, he was pretty clear that they'd take care of the maintenance from here on out.
Well, they have since it was turned over from the developer in '82 or whatever it is, so pretty sure they will continue.
Okay. We just follow up with a letter on that, I guess, to make sure.
And they'll be happy to sign an agreement to that.
But,
Probably
so
best that they do.
this gives you an idea of sort of the ballpark of where we'll be. So it's up to you guys where we go from
So
here.
the total is around 15,000.
15,220.
And this is just one quote.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can get a couple others.
and I'm fairly certain the crepe myrtles will be cheaper than the Zelkovias. I could be wrong.
And you said the crepe myrtles is what the homeowners associations want, and they're okay with the extra maintenance on
Yeah.
them.
Absolutely. Well, and the benefit of a crepe myrtle is no matter how big it gets, the limbs are never gonna get bigger around than 2-3 inches. So if one comes down, well, as they branch out, I mean, the trunk will, but the stuff that's up in the air is not gonna be that big around, and if it falls, it's not gonna cause the kind of harm that the trees that are there now would. And they'll be pretty.
Good deal. Will all of this be eligible to come out of the tree bank,
It will be.
All, the entire
the
15,
entire?
or just the trees?
The entire.
Awesome.
And we will, we'll make sure we check on the quotes for the crepe myrtle.
Thank you. The red ones are really pretty, Butch.
I have the red ones.
Yeah, we want them to be pretty for you.
Thank you.
We get one of each color.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, if you could find some blue ones, let's have red, white, and blue.
Okay, item C, we've got the short-term rentals.
So,
So,
page 5,
questions and comments.
page 5. Page 5, number 2. Addresses the parking, on-site parking spaces. That does not include a street parking option. They must have on-site property, parking. Is that,
Well, Todd, I was wrong.
What?
We do have a draft ordinance. No, I'm sorry. Go on.
You want it to say no street parking, that it has to be,
well, it doesn't here, but on page 6, there's a reference to parking again in number 9. And in that case, it does specifically mention that the parking will not including right-of-way or along any roadways.
right.
So does that cover it, or do we need to
This is just
make it
limiting,
consistent? Okay,
that was just a limiting to limit the number of vehicles. I mean, I can put them together, but that was the point, one was just to limit the number, and then the other was where you could park. But we can put them together and park
Okay.
if you want.
yeah, stronger the better.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
because on that number 9, the way it says short-term rentals shall comply with all applicable ordinances regarding parking, that wouldn't stop anybody from parking 15 cars on the street.
Right, and that's the party house option there. That we really want to avoid. So that would take care of it. Going back to page 5 also, number 4, the way that's written in number 4, the way I understand that is that would really be a preventative measure for somebody that was managing to really use their short-term rental as a wedding venue? Is that, unless they only had 6 guests?
Well, I think,
Is that-
the idea
that's a
was
good
like
thing?
if you had out-of-town guests,
Okay.
and, they wanted to have the thing, like, if my parents
Family
came with
reunion
their,
kind of thing.
well, just family. So
Okay.
they could have, during the day, they could have 6 more people
And that's it?
in the house, and that's it.
Okay, I like that. Just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. And then on page 6, 12D, we're looking at the 10 overnight guest limit. Is that right? Okay. And then it kicks in a whole another batch of regulatory codes, if that, okay, excellent.
Basically, if you have that many, you're a hotel.
Yes. Okay, 60. And we have 3 levels of enforcement possibilities. Director of Planning and Zoning, Snellville PD, and code enforcement. Okay, awesome. Just confirming. Great, I'm happy.
I didn't, through my own stupidity, I didn't review our ordinance. I reviewed our proposed ordinance. I reviewed the
Okay.
handouts from last time and had a couple of things that came up to mind. I've dealt with these through folks that, luckily I've never invested in an Airbnb myself, but others that I know very well have. Every single person puts security cameras on their property. I would like that to be part of our ordinance, that they must have a security camera that covers each entry point to the house and the driveway, because it protects the owner, and also gives them a record of who's coming and going.
So you want one at the entry point and the driveway?
At every entry point and the driveway. The cost to do that is under $300. I've done it. So it should not be financially prohibitive. And other than that, since all my comments
We're for the Brookhaven copy.
were with the Brookhaven, I'll reserve until it comes before us again, and then I'll mess you up some more. I'll review it, and any comments that I have,
Just
I'll
email
email to
everybody.
everybody. So, but the camera's really, has been a godsend for the owners to be able to put out fires before they start.
And what about the owner? Todd had talked to me about the
I forgot
owner.
about that. I'm sorry.
Is it listed in here that the owner has to be the property owner
Yeah.
versus,
I
Some-
don't think it actually says the owner has
Right.
to, so we can.
Right now, this,
Operator,
and
owner
I'll,
operator.
I sent it to my city email address, and I meant to forward it on to y'all, but again, my stupidity, my apology. The big thing in real estate investing is Airbnb, because you can make millions of dollars and become a millionaire overnight. And the latest ones I've been getting in the last 2 weeks say, and you don't even have to own the house. You can Airbnb other people's properties.
Wow.
And I think
Maybe
that,
operator more so.
yeah, I don't want someone coming in and running a Airbnb under a master lease agreement. If you're gonna run a business out of a property, a residential property, you need to be the owner of record.
We'll need to tighten that up. And
Does that make
that's
sense,
not- That's
Roger?
not contemplated, so we'll need to fix that.
Okay.
No, a lot of this doesn't make sense to me now.
See, okay.
I'm just a different mindset of what government should be doing as far as the property rights of individuals and who should have power. I believe people, not government.
Well-
Like this camera system it's another burden of entry now. Like if you're renting your property and now you gotta put a camera because the government said it's for your safety. That's the excuse they always use. That's what they put on every document. It's if the person renting the property
It's-
gets their stuff robbed, let's say for example, that's on them because
It's
they
a
decided not to.
recommendation by Airbnb themselves, and they actually have required it in some places.
A
And-
recommendation, yes.
Yep.
This is a regulation that went forth,
That's
it's no
absolutely
longer a
correct.
recommendation.
okay, anything else on that? All right. Next up is the county fire code enforcement.
Okay, here we go. Now this comes from the work session the other day. It's really re-adopting the county fire code enforcement provisions, adding the city police department as an additional enforcement individual, a person, a group. The one thing that, in dealing with and I handed you out, let me pass one more. These are sort of back to back and on the same subject
So they're all
matter.
back in use after school.
The other one that you talked about was the enforcement code reference that makes it standard, where as we currently do it, it's underneath the planning director with staff code enforcement folks reporting to
Is this
him.
the same as what I have?
And
No,
and
it's different.
Oh,
it's
okay.
different one. And so we took care of the ambiguities between the police department and the planning department. And then the other does the provisions with regard to the fire code. I added a much more stringent provision. This came from one of Lawrenceville's codes about outdoor fires requiring a
which-
permit.
Copies that one.
We're looking at one that's entitled, an ordinance to amend the environmental ordinance and code of the city of Snellville. It's, you
Okay.
see in the
The
first
second one you
page.
handed out.
Yes, it's 26/580, adoption of the Gwinnett Fire Code. And then on the third page over, it's 26/583. And it's really 583, 584, and 585. And what we're trying to deal with is that subject of outdoor burning or fire pits, that sort of thing. And the question becomes, how closely do we scrutinize the permitting process? We could permit it once a year. That permitting process gives you the ability to determine if there are any medical permits or restrictions in the area. This one would require permitting every time you use the fire pit, the way it's worded. You could do it on an annual permit basis. It just depends on how much of that issue you want to regulate with regard to fire pits. Right now, you can't burn by state law in the metro area until after September 30th, and so but nobody was enforcing it, so our police department has the ability to enforce it. It's got a lot of back and forth, outdoor grilling are exempt, so are fire pits. Your problem was a fire pit that was being used on a regular basis, and it's outdoor burning, did not come under the special regulation. You can have those. This would give you a permitting process for that if you choose to.
So if somebody has a fire pit in their backyard, they'll have to get an annual permit to use it,
Or a daily
correctly?
permit, hasn't been defined.
Or
yet.
what?
Or a daily permit, because we haven't defined that yet.
It's not defined.
Yeah.
What is a fire pit?
It would be, it's the concrete or metal structures that contain the
Like a
the area
little
of fire.
round
Yeah,
thing,
but
like you'd have a fire, so they'd
we'd
have to
have
get
to
a
define
permit in the
Yes.
city to burn one?
That was the problem from the work session the other day. The problem was those were being used when there were medical exceptions in place.
Well, somebody said they were being used to cover the
Doesn't
odor
matter.
of marijuana.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The fact they were having a fire pit burning next to someone who had a medical
Yeah.
Burn ban.
burn ban.
And the
That-
fire
that
and
was
the
the
fire
problem.
department wouldn't enforce it. That was the issue. So, now, I'm just giving you a form. I'm not
Yeah.
recommending any of those things. Y'all decide, but I did want to put that marker in there because that was the issue that was raised.
Yeah, I'm not of a mind to require people to get a permit
That's a lot.
but if there's an issue, and one of our constituents brings it to our attention, then I think we should be able to enforce those medical burn bans, or the overall burn ban, but I don't know that permitting is the way to go.
You would be able to do that without the 583, 584. If you took those out, then letting your police department have the authority to enforce, and it comes under the ban, and then there's an exception to that, which would be the fire pit, but then there's an exception to the fire pit when there's a medical restriction, but it was just, y'all were told fire department wouldn't enforce it, but you could enforce it under this language.
Is there a way to, enforce it if it's been reported as a nuisance by neighbors rather than?
Wouldn't it have to come under the irregular nuisance thing where they present it to the council at that point?
Not if it were here.
Yeah, if you were enforcing the state regulation over fire ban, I think you could enforce that under this provision the way it's written without the fire pit inclusion. I think because it's in the state code. The exception for the fire pit's in the state code, and so is the medical restriction part. So they're violating that rule when there's a.
Okay.
And how do we get the medical restriction area information out so that we don't get, I didn't know? We need a device to make that easily accessible.
There's a.
They have to register the medical ban.
Oh, I know, but I want to have a fire, and I look around, and I say, well, everybody's healthy around me, and then I find out that the guy next door,
That's usually what a warning is for. You get a call. Usually that's what's done. There's a good publication on the subject matter on the state's website. It explains the whole process. It's a good source.
So you light up a fire, a neighbor calls police or the fire department, they come out and put your fire out, and then they say, oh, Mr. Emanuel, you can't be burning because this person has a medical burn ban.
So then they would just get a warning.
Yeah, and I mean, that's up to you guys
Yeah.
in terms of
I
that
mean, that's what I
enforcement
think is
But I think that
reasonable.
makes
Oh, yeah,
sense.
Yeah,
I just didn't
that's
know if there's a
your
register somewhere where
Right.
people
Right.
can, to avoid the
Actually,
person.
There's no way a typical homeowner would think to go and look
Probably.
up somewhere on some obscure website to see whether they can, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Really?
It's not.
You have little things?
Okay, so mull this over, see how strict you wanna be.
How far away from the person that has this medical issue
I don't know that
can
road. I don't know
someone
that
burn?
road. I'm
Like a
assuming
fire
if you're
pit.
affecting them with smoke, if you're close enough to where they can smell the smoke, then
Yeah.
you're gonna be violating that road. So.
Okay.
And that's only if they have a registered medical ban through the state, right?
Okay, and then, was that,
I handed out the other one too.
Okay.
It's just correcting the code enforcement references in the code.
so that other piece that you got, all that, I think at the last meeting, Tony, or at the work session that we had, Tony had mentioned that our ordinance had a couple of different references that weren't all the same, so that last thing you got was just the correction of that. Okay, we do have exec session, but I don't think we've got time for it before the meeting.
I'd be able to fit it in,
You think? And still be on time?
yeah.
Depends on how quick we can clear the room.
And still allow a restroom run?
restroom run. Particular run.
Talk fast. Start reading.
During the work session of the Mayor and City Council of
10
Snellville,
minutes,
Georgia,
so.
Mayor Bender
Yes,
announced
that's
certain
correct.
matters should be discussed in closed session of the meeting and asked council to advise the city with respect to closing the meeting. City Attorney Tony Powell advised the city of the following reasons to close the meeting: litigation,
In real estate.
to discuss pending and or potential litigation